Hello everyone, welcome to this global GEG broadcast. We'll be making a start shortly, and while we're waiting for everyone to arrive, why not head into the chat, let us know who you are, where you're from, your Twitter handle, and if you've got any questions that you'd like us to answer during the course of this evening, let us know there as well. Also, if you haven't already done so, make sure you hit that subscribe button to make sure you stay up to date with all of the events being organised by us at Global GEG. We'll be making a start really soon. Thanks for joining us.
Good evening, everybody. I am Laura Stevens, and tonight we're going to talk about Doodle notes. So let me share my screen and get the files up for you so you can see what we are going to be working on. Sorry about that. I guess it's running a little slow. There we go. All right. Hopefully everybody can see that. So, hi. We're going to be talking about Doodle notes tonight. My kids, I started learning about Doodle notes about a year ago, and I fell in love with it. Put them in the chat as well as on the ticker. Yes, we can take care of that. Just 1 second. And they'll pop up. There's actually 4 of them because I have got out there the slides as well as some samples that I made for you guys, a doodle note that we can all do together, and a Jamboard. So there's some goodies out there for you. My kids fell in love with this. I teach 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, and I teach STEM. And they loved it because they knew when Doodle Note Day was, they were going to have a moment to breathe. So let me go on and get started. So there's the links again, too, if you want to. I tried to make them logical. The main slide deck is bit.ly Stevens Doodle. The brain is bit.ly Doodle Brain. The samples are bit.ly Doodle Samples. And then the jam is bit.ly Doodle Jams. So let's go on. So first of all, and you guys can all read, so I'm not going to read for you. I just really wanted to say thank you for coming and joining me and giving me this opportunity to share and for all us to learn together. I don't want this to be me talking to you. Hopefully you guys can feedback some ideas and everything, because I really believe that collaboration is the way that we're going to make everything go forward. And I learn more from you than I could ever give back. So I just want to say thank you. And it truly shows your dedication as educators to be here outside of the school year and outside of your normal day. I really, really appreciate that. So this is just a little bit about me. Like I said, I've been teaching middle school STEM for 14 years. I have a BA in information tech. I am a master's degree in teaching and a master's of science in ed tech. I do teach Project Lead the Way, Gateway to Technology curriculum, if you're familiar with that. I've been teaching that for 14 years. I am lucky to be certified not only middle school math, but also elementary ed. I did teach elementary 4th grade for 2 years before I decided, yeah, that's not me. I need a little bit older crew. Google Level 1 and Level 2 educator, working towards my trainer. I'm an Apple educator and also an Adobe Creative educator. So goals. I was always raised that whether you're talking to adults or you're talking to kids, you need to let people know what's going on. We are hopefully going to understand what doodle notes are, be able to create a basic doodle note, and plan different ways that you can use them. I love Doodle notes. Think of them as like a scaffold for sketch notes. I am by no means an artist. And when everybody started doing sketchnoting, I was terrified. I kept thinking, I can't draw. I'm not going to ask my kids to draw. You know, if I'm that terrified of it, the kids are going to be terrified of it. So this is a scaffold or a way to differentiate. Doodle notes do work on the iPad. David, well, I see your question there. Let me put that up. I have not worked on creating them on the iPad yet. That's my next go. I usually create my Doodle notes in PowerPoint, to be honest, just because PowerPoint has so much more creativity. I converted them now to be creating them in Google Slides because they're so much easier to share once they're in Google Slides. You do have the ability for Google Slides on the iPad. We are an Apple school where I teach, so we're one-to-one. All my kids have iPads. They are able to work with them on the iPad. I love it. Okay, so let me get back over to where I was. Sorry. Note-taking support, I also like it because you can differentiate. You can easily, especially with doing it digitally, you can set up requirements for each of the notes. So if you have a kid that needs to be pushed farther, you just ask them to do a little bit more. If you have a kid that needs some differentiation and some scaffolding down, you adjust the Doodle notes are so easy to adjust, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And I'm sorry, I get so excited that I just kind of want to show you what's going on. They work in all settings, all grades, all curriculum, virtual, in-person, synchronous, asynchronous, and they're all based on scientifically proven data. With teaching STEM, I'm not a touchy-feely person. Everything has to be logical for me, and it has to be based on some scientific proof. And that's why I like this. So I'm going to go on. And if one of those files should have been a file called bit.ly Doodle Brain, and it's all about brain science, is the title of the Doodle note. And it's just a very simple Doodle note, but it kind of shows you how they can be engaging. I think giving the kids a document if you're in person, or giving the kids something in front of them as opposed to a blank piece of paper helps them get over that fear of knowing where to start. I know it does me. So on this Doodle note, you'll see everything except for the green boxes I have built on the master slide. The green boxes are where the kiddos, or in this case, you guys, can actually type. When I start this with my kids, I always give them at minimum 10 minutes ahead before I ask them to do any kind of structured work. They have colored pencils, markers, whatever they want outside of paint. I don't obviously give them paint in front of them, and they have 10 minutes to just breathe, be a kid, and color. I don't care what they color on the page. I don't care if they doodle. I don't care if they draw hearts and stars or a whole bunch of video game characters. I don't care, so long as it's school appropriate. If it won't offend grandma, it's probably not going to offend me. So they get that time, and that's one reason they know that Doodle Note days are good, because they know they're going to get that time to breathe and almost take a break. So if you guys all have that out, we are going to look at the brain science behind Doodle Notes. And this could also be said for sketch notes too, because the science is the same. With Doodle Notes, you're just providing that structure that's not there with sketch notes. So the brain science, and I'm going to go through this quickly the way I would do it with my kids. I obviously would not have all this up for my kids. I would walk them through it. Usually I have the doodle note if we're doing this in a synchronous instruction. I have the doodle note in front of me on our whiteboard, and I will be filling it in as we talk about it. So I am modeling where things go for my kids that need that model, but yet the kids that don't need that model, they're always working ahead. They might be the ones that doodle a little bit further, but we start talking about, and I simply ask them, so when you're thinking about something, what's going on in your head? And you'll see them pause, and I'll be like, so when I think, I don't usually think in black and white. I always think in color. Don't you guys think in color? And there's always, one kid that's like, nope, everything's black and white. Okay. But today we're going to work on color, and then we talk about how usually when you think, you don't think in words, you think in pictures. And most of them will agree with that. So we talk about how if your brain thinks in color and your brain thinks in pictures, how that can help us in school. And I explained to them that I'm all about the cheap and easy tricks. Cheap and easy tricks. So I go through, hey, if this only raises your grade maybe 3% off over the course of a semester, yeah, that's not a whole lot. But 3%, if you're sitting at an 88B, that pushes you to a 91A. And then they all kind of like sit up and take notice. Those cheap and easy things, they might not seem like big. Plus, I remind them that, hey, when we're doing doodle notes, you guys get 10 minutes to chill out. And that kind of like builds the buy-in as well. So we talk about how our core subjects on the left hemisphere of our brain are the logic, the reasoning, the reading, the writing, the math, the science. The majority of our day is spent in the left side of our brain. And then we talk about the right hemisphere, and that's the arts, the color, music, creativity, design, visual representation. And I usually tell them, okay, guys, I want you to label the left hemisphere and I want you to label the right hemisphere. And then I want you to pick 3 of the things that we've talked about for the left hemisphere and the right hemisphere, and I want you to fill them in. So if they are having the paper in front of them, they're using their different colored pencils and markers and whatever colors they want to write those in. On the computer, they're clicking in those text boxes and they're typing it in. The same thing with colors, though, on the computer. They can go in and they can fill in. They all know how to use the shapes, and they can fill in shapes and different colors, and they can change the fonts, and they can change the colors. So they're still getting the impact of that right hemisphere on the computer. And then we start talking about, sorry guys. Start talking about how you can access both hemispheres simultaneously. And that's where the beauty of the doodle notes comes in. And you notice in that middle block between the brain, I've got 2 arrows. Those arrows represent how the right side talks to the left and how the left side talks to the right. And I have them label it. I'm like, that's called your corpus callosum. You don't just really have like an empty space between your 2 sides of your brain. You actually have stuff there. You have brain matter there, and you're going to be building those electrical connections across the corpus callosum. And they write that in. And then we start talking about how when you have those connections that build your concentration, your focus, your retention, but it also makes you relax. When you're actually engaging both sides, both hemispheres of your brain, you are more relaxed. That's what all the science shows. You're more engaged. You learn more. You learn easier because your memory is willing and it's more engaged and it's clicked in. That's when problem solving occurs. And we go on and we actually brainstorm, and I let the kids come up. Well, what about this? What about that? And they're amazed that when they're able to use and engage both sides, how much easier it is. So then I'll ask them, okay, see the little guy at the bottom? I want you to pick the 4 items that you think will help you the most when we engage both sides of the hemisphere, or both hemispheres of your brain. What are the 4 things you think will help you the most? And it's really amazing to look back on this and see what they put down, because my middle schoolers, especially my 7th grade, I swear I don't, 7th grade, full-time 7th grade teachers deserve hazard pay, because those kiddos are every year beyond. They come in as amazing 6th graders and go out as, oh Lord, my God, and then, come back in 8th grade and they're amazing. But those are the kids that really understand they're missing that point that allows them to focus. They're missing that point that allows them to concentrate. And I would probably say 99% of my, especially 7th grade boys, hit on focus and concentration, which I love, because that tells me they realize what's going on in their brain, and maybe this will be a way. And what's the beauty, and I will tell you this, I only have my kids for a quarter, but I've had kids come back to me after that quarter, and I've also had other teachers come to me from the kids that I've had and say, your kids are asking to take notes in colored pencil. Tell me why this is. Explain to me why this is. And it makes me feel so good. It makes me feel like I've actually made a connection and I've made an impact, because the kid obviously realizes that they're more engaged when they're writing in color, if nothing else. So I consider that a huge win. So that just kind of gives you a hint of kind of what the doodle notes look like and what I am working with them when we are working working together. My mind is just totally, I can't say it tonight. Working together on them, not only in person, but also when you're virtual. I will have this up just like I have for you, and I will be going through it with them. The beauty of it, doing it asynchronous, I'm planning on screencasting myself and doing it the same exact way. I plan on screencasting as I walk through it with them, and then have them do a flip grid and explain to me what they did with their design. All Flipgrid's new features come out tomorrow, and they're going to have a screencast feature in the Flipgrid. So, I mean, all this just fits right in. I've thrown up some samples. These are all samples of doodle notes that I've made. You can see they're all kind of science-based with me teaching STEM. Some of them are a little higher level. Some of them are a little lower level. The highest one there right now is that potential and kinetic energy, because by the time my 6th graders hit energy, they should have had it a few times. So I'm asking them to step up the game. I would probably walk through all of this with them to make sure it's a refresher. But then when it got to that bottom roller coaster, I would be asking them to do that on their own, it's great, because then you can quickly do a formative with this. Who's got it? Who doesn't? Where do I need to step back? So I love it. I can't tell you how much I love these things. Other ideas. We've made cards, just a simple card for concept visualization. Is there a concept that's hard? We do the design process. The kids, I beat it into them over and over and over and over. Do you know the order? Do you know that it can go both ways? They have a concept card. You can do text structures I thought that would be really important for English teachers, especially maybe elementary teachers when you're trying to teach those different parts of a story. And the one my kids really love is vocabulary because honest, and I was the same way. I could not stand, okay, here's your vocabulary words, write them 3 times and create a sentence. you know, and then, yeah, the Freyer model works, but we've all seen the Freyer model to death, draw your picture and blah, blah, blah. So if you come up and you can easily create vocabulary doodle notes where it pretty much has all the same information as the Freyer model, but in a more engaging and entertaining way. Yes, the doodle notes, and I've got the credits for them. They have been out on Teachers Pay Teachers, and I will admit I have bought some out there, but I will also admit usually when I buy them out there, it's like, wow, this has everything I need, and I can spend $4 on that, or I can take an hour and build it myself. Well, for $4, I'd rather have my hour. So that's just my thinking. I enjoy building them myself because I can customize them for my curriculum. There is some science ones out there, but usually they're not set up the way my curriculum is. And then the other one, this is one I haven't tried. It's a collaborative doodle note. This is, if we get to go back to in-person instruction, this is my plan for this fall, unless I can wrap my mind around how to do this one virtually. Basically, all the doodle notes fit together and make a roadmap. So you could possibly do this with a whole unit and figure out how the whole unit's doodle notes would fit and cross back and forth. So let's move on. So I want to actually spend some time so you guys can actually create something. So the 2 big resources that I learned about doodle notes from were the 2 that David probably was referencing. One, she's called the Math Giraffe, and it's doodlenotes.org. She actually has a doodle note club that I fell in love with this concept so much, I actually paid to join because I was so excited and fell in love with it. And then Kate's Classroom is what it used to be called. She's now called Captivate Science. She does have quite a bit of, not quite a bit, she has a good deal of science ones. And then obviously your free sites, Pixabay, Unsplash. I have given you 3 templates out there that I made. That's the Bitly Note Doodle samples. So they're just generic templates. Let me see if it will allow me to switch. I don't know. Nope, it won't allow me to switch. I'd have to, you guys can pull it up. There's 3 on there. One has like a theater scene. One is the basic 5 W's and an H, which no matter how old the kids are, they need that. And the other one is more like a board game setting. It's the same setup as the brain was. They're the green squares. The kids know they can change the colors, whatever. Feel free to make copies, send them out however you would like. Again, I was talking about how I've switched over to making them in Google Slides. So let's see. I have to figure out how I can open a new, I guess I need to stop screen share. Sorry, guys, I'm still kind of learning on all of this. And I need to open a new presentation because I want us to be able to create a doodle note together. Chrome tab. Doodle notes. All right. Nope. Fail. Sorry. Try it again. Untitled presentation. Share screen. Chrome tab. Untitled presentation. All right. All right. There we go. All right. So I'm going to get rid of the themes over here. And I'm going to get rid of the stuff in the middle. And then I always format them like a piece of paper. Whether I'm going to print them or not, it's just my way of thinking. So I'm going to go to File, Page Setup, change it to Custom. And then I always have to think, you know, I don't know why, because a standard piece of paper is 8.5 by 11. But in my mind, it always takes me a minute to figure that out. Okay. So we have an 8.5 by 11. Now, I have, as I said, I have paid for a whole bunch of clip art through my Doodle Note Club. You don't have to do that. You can go out and find free clip art. You can do everything within the shapes of the Google Slides. It's up to you. So I always suggest, and it was suggested to me, always put a frame out there on your Doodle Note to start with. And I will tell you one thing that I learned from my kids. I always created these in the beginning, and I never remembered to put a spot for them to put their name. Take it from me. Make a spot for them to put their name. Otherwise, they will either leave their name off and blame you, or they will put the name on the back, and if you're like me, you'll never think to look on the back. So leave a spot for your kid's name. The other thing is chunk up the border. You don't have to worry about colors because the kids are going to take care of it. So we have a border. Now from here, I would strongly, strongly recommend looking at your curriculum, thinking about what you're wanting the kids to learn. Are you wanting them to learn a single concept? Are you wanting them to be able to learn different parts or different elements of something? Are you wanting, there's some amazing math ones out there, guys. If any of you guys are math, like teaching the cumulative properties and things like that, there's some amazing stuff. But I always have a piece of paper next to me when I'm designing, and I have the goal. And then I think about literally, I've taught this before, what's worked and what hasn't worked. Has it worked to chunk it up? Has it worked where the chunk's going? And how best do the kids respond to it? So that's my first step. And then I also try to put the theme with what it is. So like if you're, we're looking back on my design process one, exactly, we could probably use drawings from the clip art. Exactly. But my design process, we're always talking about gears, and I want the kids to realize that with the design process, you can go either direction. You might have to step back and reiterate, and then you're going to test and something's wrong. So my Doodle Note for them is literally a series of gears that are all interconnected, okay? Mine for the forms of energy, I all have little pictures, little black and white clip art of the forms of energy. So I challenge you to take the next 5 to 10 minutes. 10 minutes is good. Think about something that your kids struggle with and see what you could come up with for a quick Doodle Note. Everybody has one concept that usually pops in your head right away that the kids struggle with. And I'll tell you right now, mine is gear ratios. And I still don't have a Doodle Note that I like for gear ratios. Probably because I still don't understand gear ratios. But everybody's got a concept. So think about it You can pull up the shapes. You can pull up Unsplash and Pixabay. Both have clip art in there. You just have to put clip art behind it. You can also come in and add in the pictures from the web right here. So if we were going to do parts of a plant, we could literally do a plant clip art. And I'm just going to talk through this while you guys are working on yours. And I might do something like this. Drag it over. I'd probably try to get something a little bit more kid-friendly. This looks like something that, you know, would be in a old lady's bathroom. So I'd probably try to get something a little bit more kid-friendly. But this will work for now. And the other thing I've learned in this process is you have to teach the kids that it's okay to go outside the lines. We've been beat into our heads so much that we have to stay inside the lines, inside the lines, inside the lines. You got to break the kids of it. You got to tell them it's okay and even encourage them to go outside the lines. So they don't think that, hey, I have to get all my little thoughts in this itty bitty little square. Nope, you don't. It's a thing called next page. So even when they're typing, they can't get it all on there. Next page, they put a little blurb, this is what I'm talking about, and they continue typing. Flip the page over. This is what I was talking about in this color. Here it goes. You have to ensure that they can go outside the lines. So if I was doing this, actually, I just really can't stand that picture of that flower. It's just too old lady looking and not really. This guy's good. I like him. He is more my speed, more my style. Ask pretty much anybody in Global GEG and they'll tell you I'm a loudmouth goof. So that's okay. At my age, I can be a loudmouth goof. So I've got a pretty flower there. And if I was going to do this on parts of the flower, which I don't teach, so you guys might have to help me with this. It's been a long time. I would come in and I would put in shapes. And I would do this. I would have built this all on the master. I didn't do that here. Do you guys know how to get to the master? I should have shown you that. If you know how to get to the master, it's up under View, Master. And the beauty of that is when you use the master slide, nothing can be moved. So I can even come back over here and I can select all this and hit Control-C to copy, delete it, come over to the master and paste it in. So the beauty of that, and I'm going to come up here and I'm going to go on and make this box, give it a little border color, give it a little bit of weight, and I'm going to make that background white. And I'm going to say, just copy it. I don't know how many parts a plant has. Like I said, that's not covered in my curriculum, and it's been a long time since I've had a botany class. And I'm one of those OCD neurotic people. I would have to come up here and select all these, hit arrange, align them to the center, and then I would also have to distribute them so they were distributed evenly. Otherwise, it would drive me insane. So say that's the back side, the basis of my doodle note. And honestly, this I would be searching till I came up with one that was just the lines. It wouldn't be colored in or anything. I would want that blank and open so my kiddos could color it. So I'm going to come back over here and I am going to put in text boxes. inside these boxes. So the kids know that the boxes is the container. And the text box, obviously, if you're printing it, you don't need the text box. I've been putting in text boxes for everything, whether I'm printing or not, because there's the uncertainty. You know, we don't know where we're going to be. And then all you have to do is copy them down and place them in. And my directions for this, that's one thing that I am going to have to adjust to. Usually I don't put directions on my Doodle notes. The adjustment is going to be for me to put directions on the Doodle notes so the kids can work on them asynchronously. Even if I am going to be, you know, they can follow me on a video, I want to be able to provide those directions in multiple ways so that they're not having to keep rewinding unless they want to. So my directions for this would be something as simple as, okay, guys, I want you to draw an arrow from the box to each part of the plant. In the box, I want you to tell me the name of that part of the plant and explain to me what that part does. Boom. Can they use any materials they have in front of them? Yes. I don't expect my kids to memorize facts. I expect my kids to be able to utilize their learning. So I don't do tests. I don't believe in the standard test like I grew up with. There's nothing wrong with them. It's just not the way I roll in my class. I want my kids, if I was going to test them on this, I would want them to have a plant and probably dissect it. Hang on, let me read what that question is. So if you put the text boxes on the master, they could still type in them when not on the master. I've never tried that. I always put the text boxes on the front so the kids can adjust the size if they need to. Because literally I'll have kids adjust this and they would adjust it so it would be like that. I have never, I'm not, that's a question I don't know. I don't know. That would be a question for one of our amazing, more googly people in the background. There's somebody that knows more than me. Yes, they can. So Marie, Sharon answered for both of us. See, I learn more from you guys than I give back. But that's why I always put them on the front, because my kids like to move things around and I'm cool with that. I want them to take ownership in this. Yes, they can't move. So like they can't move the flower. They can't move the main boxes. They can't move the frame. Nothing like that can be manipulated. It would just be where you want to put the text boxes. And if it would also depend upon the age of the kids. You know, my middle schoolers, I've trained them to know I'm pretty lax as a teacher. I'll pretty much accept anything so long as they're giving an honest effort to me. And that's when I have a problem, is when they're not giving an honest effort. So that's why I leave them on top. It is. You have to know your kids. You're exactly right, Jessica. You have to know your kids. So let me see if I can. Does everybody kind of have an understanding of how you can build even simple ones? They can get more complicated, but they don't have to be. So let's go back to the presentation, and I'm trying to be conscious of your guys' time. So share screen, Doodle notes, share. All right. So I've given you the 3 samples. They're probably a little bit more complicated. And then I've also put out a Jamboard for us, and that's, I believe, pretty much one of the, yep, the last things we have, except for to talk about how we can implement it. I have a Jamboard set up with 4 pages, one for ideas, one for questions, one for examples, one for other resources. If you have other resources, oh yeah, that would be for our younger kids, type here, or that might be a great way, Jessica, to scaffold. Only because at the beginning of the term, you might have to actually tell them type here, even with the green box. It just depends upon the kids and the level they're at. Do you know the dimensions to have landscape? I always do it 8.5 by 11 paper, so I'm not making double things. So if you're going to do it landscape, it would be 11 by 8.5 versus, what is it? What's the vertical called? I don't remember what the vertical is called off the top of my head. It's 8.5 by 11. I always do it that, so it'll work both ways. I don't want to be reinventing the wheel and using weird sizes and then have to redo it. I'm kind of lazy that way. So if you guys want to go over to the Jamboard, we can take a look at other ideas. My head's always swimming with ideas and ways that you can use these and ways you can implement them. Portrait, that's it. Thanks, Peggy. I have that where you know the word and sometimes it's there and sometimes it's not thing going on some days. Hopefully, you know, it'll knock the cobwebs out. So while you guys are looking at the Jamboard, I'm going to talk a little bit about implementation, and then we can all go over, I'll go over to the Jamboard too. Some ways that I've used this, I've used it, like I said, when we're taking notes. I give them a doodle note to do their research on. Like I'll give them a big box and they'll write their question in the box and they'll use their doodle notes as a way to organize, as opposed to like when I was a kid, we always had to have the 3 by 5 cards, and inevitably I would drop them and they'd get out of order and I wouldn't have them numbered right, or I'd lose one. There's one piece of paper. Or if it's on the computer, it's never going to get lost. We use them to collaborate. I'll do one and I'll divide the page visibly into 2 pieces, into 2 sections. So one student will have one section and the other student will have their second section. And then there'll be like a Venn diagram in the middle, and they will have to pull their ideas to collaborate. Vocabulary I talked about. Interviews. To use doodle notes for interviews is amazing, especially if you have, Javier, did I not set it up right? Especially if you have kiddos that can't remember or are new to doing interviews. That's one reason that I did the who, what, when, where, why, and how doodle note for you. That's really, really, really helped my kids, because yes, I go through what questions to write, excuse me, questions to write and how to write the questions and how to do the interview and all those steps. I'm sorry, I'll go through and I'll get it, and let me go through over there while we're talking. And the kids still never remember when they get in front of the person, even see if that'll allow you to edit it now. Hopefully, I updated the permissions. You might have to hit refresh, like reload it. Excuse me. Caitlin, I need my plug.
What?
I need my plug. Sorry, my computer's going down. I'm sorry about that. I thought I had checked all the permissions beforehand. Obviously, I failed. What I was talking about on here, they never remember. So that who, what, when, where, why, and how is awesome for that, because it gives them a jump start. You know, okay, I know I have all these questions, but now I'm in front of the principal and I'm supposed to ask them something and they kind of freeze. If they have that doodle note in front of them and they know they need to ask who, what, when, where, why, and how, it gives them a safety net. And I like safety nets. I like safety nets for me. I like safety nets for my kids. Concept review, study guides, built-in study guides. And then I know a lot of things, and I hadn't really looked at that until this summer, these one-page assessments. I didn't really understand them until I started looking at them. And to me, when I've looked at them, the one-page assessment is almost like a sketch note, sort of. You're giving the kids a blank page and you're telling them what you want them to tell you back. Well, the doodle note could be looked at the same way. You could easily give the kid any of our doodle notes. Okay, explain to me the brain science behind doodle notes. And they'd fill out the doodle note, and there's your one-page, easy one-pager assessment. Wham, bam, done. No need to create anything. No A, B, C, D, multiple choice. You know, no more of that. And there's a gazillion other ways you can implement doodle notes. I've seen them used in every class. I've seen them. I made them for my niece when she was a toddler. You know, I just did basic. I put a circle, a square, a triangle, and I think I had a stop sign. You know, okay, Abby, I want you to color the circle red. You know, it's yes, it's like a basic worksheet, but you're not asking them to just repeat rote and answer questions or do rote problems. So that's it. It brings in that brain science as well. So I do have a quick video here. This is from the Math Giraffe. And it's kind of showing the doodle notes in action. And I'm not going to play it because I've been told that it will freak out. But basically, it's just her coloring. You guys can watch it at any time. It's 30 seconds. Her coloring the different parts of the doodle note. Very similar. I always do. When I was in college, my professors called it a blue bunny. And they explained that if they showed the class an example done, and they showed the class the example and it was a bunny colored blue, that every student would color their bunny blue also. So I always have a blue bunny for my kids too. Here is what mine looks like, but I always make sure that I've only done about half of it. So yeah, they can copy it, but the other half they have to come up with their originals. So my requirements on these are very few. I require effort. My kids know that I will be their greatest hero and they're behind them 110%. But if they're not trying, I will also be their greatest nag, and I will be on them 110%. So they have to try. They have to use more than 3 colors. 3 colors is the minimum. And I get the kids, well, I don't want to do color. I don't feel like it today. Okay, then you better get the black out and you better use 3 graduations of black. I better see a really dark black, a medium black, and a really light black. But you better have 3 differentiations on there. I have very few non-negotiables for my kiddos. And the ones that I do have are non-negotiable. And they're not hard. You know, I'm asking you to color. And I've had to call home. Yes, ma'am. We had a trouble in class today. Tom didn't want to do his doodle notes. Well, his doodle notes are Basically, the first thing I ask them to do is color things in. Yes, ma'am. All I'm asking him to do is use some colored pencils and color in some shapes. Not even talking about taking the notes yet, but he was refusing to color. And every time I've gotten that, I've had, let me talk to them. And I get, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. She wants to talk to you. You won't have this problem again. I hang up, they go back and sit down, and they start coloring. I can only imagine what was said on the other end, and I can only imagine what I would say if it was my daughter's teacher calling me, telling me she wouldn't or was refusing to color. So, any questions? I'm going to see if I can't flip over to the Jamboard in this last few minutes and see if there's anything there. Yes, the writing process would be amazing. Anything that is a system or a flow chart there is perfect. I actually have, and you should be able to find some too. I have some clip art that actually looks like a pipes, and they fit the pipes together, and it actually has a spigot. So when you have the kids draw the arrows to move the spigot, the water comes out the other end. It's perfect. Yep. Leave your students. Yep, exactly. They learn from the mistakes just like we do. Do you set up guidelines? Basically what you heard me. They have to put forth an effort, and I make them use 3 colors. You know, that's just I don't think that's asking a lot. Do you do a parent workshop to teach them about why it is important? I always provide the parents a copy of that brain research, kind of like a picture of that slide that we did. And then the kids have that brain, the brain doodle note, and their assignment. I do that really early in the quarter. Their kids' assignment for that night is to go home and explain that to their parents and have their parents sign the sheet and bring it back to me. So do the parents read it? I don't know. Going forward with not knowing what this year is going to look like, I plan on doing little screencasts to explain it to the parents, because I think that's important. I don't want a parent to come to me and said, hey, you know, you had my little Karen sitting here and all she said she was doing today was coloring, and she's in 8th grade, you know, that would be a problem. How do you use Doodle notes for a study guide? I've used them 2 ways. I've pulled them back out with a blank one, and we've refilled it out together, but this time them telling me the answers, I've had them fill them out collaboratively in a group. And then I've also had them just pull out their other one and correct them. You know, not necessarily correct them, but, you know, this is where we started with this concept. Where are you at now with this concept? What do you need to add in to that initial to ensure that you have everything understood? No, I have never had it become a distraction, because that, I guess that goes back to my guideline. They have the 10 minutes in front to color. I go through the process of whatever we're doing that they're filling that in. Once I'm done, the colored pencils, colored markers are put away. Period. Any other color, any other doodling is done it on their own time. And I better not see anybody having the whole page colored in and decorated and no information in there, because then it's going to go to my expectation of trying. That is not trying. So it's not become, like I said, I run a pretty lax classroom. So when I do have non-negotiables, the kids usually don't give me any flack on it. Do you think this is appropriate for 9 to 12? I teach middle school. I teach 6th through 8th. So 6th grade is what, 11, I think. I would definitely think so. I was using basic ones with my niece when she was in kindergarten. It's all, you know, the parts of the plant one that we did together. I believe parts of the plant here in Missouri is 3rd grade science. That would work with them. You know, you're not going to expect them to have the same parts of the plant described and in as detailed as like a high school biology class, but they could tell you the stem, the leaf, you know, all those. So yes, I think they could be used all the way down to, you know, 1st grade and kindergarten. It's just the curriculum and the detail. You know, you could talk about with kindergartners, what's the process to even go through the lunch line? Imagine if you had, you know, a lunch line up there, or what's a balanced meal? You know, you could have the food pyramid up there and go through the food pyramid with kiddos. I agree, Peggy. I would have too. I think things would have stuck more. I really think things would have stuck more. So I just finishing up here, examples. Thank you so much. I will take everything that you guys put in here, and I'm going to leave this open if you want to look at it. I'm going to take everything that's in here, and I am going to put it back into a Wakelet, and then I will post the Wakelet out for everybody to have. It'll probably not be until this weekend, though. I have some things going on this week for school. And then I just want to say thank you so much. I appreciate you coming and spending your evening with me and believing in me enough to listen to what I've got to say and for you guys sharing back. So Sharon, if you try it with your seniors, please, please, please let me know. Yeah, anybody tries this with their kiddos, please let me know how it goes. I'd love to see examples and how you did it and everything. I'd really appreciate that. Please do fill out the feedback for me. I'm still learning to present. I've done PD for my district, but doing it here in front of the camera is very different than doing it in front of the district. So any hints or things that you can give me, things that I can do better and improve, I would greatly, greatly appreciate that. So, yay, Marie, I'm so glad to hear that. Thank you guys for coming in. So if you guys in the back could put up the reminder for the feedback for me, I'd really, really appreciate it. What is my Wakelet name? Same as Twitter, @StevensStem, StephenSSTEM. That's me. Right. Any other questions? If not, you guys have a great evening. Thank you so much to Javier and Bonnie and Stephanie for having my back. I appreciate it.
Lara, thank you very much. You're an awesome person. Thanks for these tips and share with us your knowledge. Thank you.
I appreciate it. Have a good night, guys.